All right, so here's some wild and trippy thinking about creation and life and our relation to it, and how it's like a law that starts with the concept, and then that concept is passed on down through the procedure to make you, and the procedure to make me, and every other living thing on this planet, including even simple cells. So before there could have been any creation at all, there had to be a thought. And the first thought would have wondered what everything was. And then it would have been given a whole bunch of things to play with and learn what everything was and how to build it and what was going on with it. But then there was a time for self-awareness. And so that's what we end up being, is the ability for singularity to multiply. And so we all have sovereign minds of our own that all started with a thought, consciousness, before a manifestation. Before the seed of a man even forms in his body, it knows one day that it will. And for years, it doesn't know how to do it yet. That knowledge is still hidden. And eventually it will be opened. And then your body will change. And now you will have the ability to create life as well. And so the consciousness will now shift to making the half the components needed for life. Only half. It's incomplete. The energy that's inside of the seed only knows a couple things. Swim like hell, and there's something familiar that you'll really like when you get to it. And that's about all you know. That's what that half of you knows. You aren't whole yet. There's nothing whole about you yet. The mind of you is not in the seed. Only the mind of the seed is in the seed so far that it has to get to the egg. That's all it knows. Because when it dies, the ones that don't make it, as soon as the life leaves them, so does the intent to swim like hell and get to the thing that it will really like when it gets to it. And that's about all it knows. It'll be like a flavor or a smell or both, and this thing will just be attracted to it. That's about all it knows. And then it hooks up with the egg, and the egg will accept one out of all the other genetic components required to make a human. And so it selects, supposedly, I guess anyway, the best one. And in that moment, there's another flash of light when those two creations that both also have life, a certain amount of consciousness to do their job, but only enough on a genetic level, come together, and then there's a flash of light. And I think your consciousness starts then. It's like in an incubatory state, though, and it slowly opens up as you get closer to the second portal. So that's the first portal, is when your life is given to you in the form of electricity or light, which coincidentally is what we pass information around these days in the form of computers and packets of information. It's all based on math and light. If your computer arced, it would have a spark. We can send the information through the air even, and it can be given and recoded into information that can be turned into audio and visual and programming and whatever else. It's all light. So that's a different kind of programming that a human has now made using electricity. But the first one was the soft hard drive, the soft software, and that's your human biology given that light. But it's half darkness as well. At an atomic level, everything has a little bit of space in it. So darkness and light are both coexisting at the same time. Now that doesn't have anything to do with your mind necessarily, because you do have an element of choice, but that's the foundation for it. That's how we describe good and evil is also darkness and light. That's how it would fall if we were going to go through the polarities of existence, which is another law that keeps everything together. So your life starts that moment, and your genetic component clung to as the male component, which could be a female, XXXY. And I don't mean any offense to anybody. I'm not making any attacks or insinuations about anything. I'm just describing how life is created and what I think about it on a physical and spiritual level, and what your spirit and your soul is. And that's that electricity. Like when it leaves the seed and the seed no longer thinks for itself, its 2 thoughts or 3 thoughts, what to do in its life. Same with the egg. It has a job. It knows what it has to do. It knows a couple of things. Very simple. It just has to do a couple things, and then it starts to turn into something else, and it multiplies. So 1 and 1 become 2, and then it becomes billions, maybe even trillions, for the amount of cells that your body will pump out over the course of its life. And all of those cells have a small amount of energy in them that will eventually die, and it has a function and it knows what to do. Everything is programmed at its level for cohesiveness throughout creation, whether it's living or dead. The elements come together, and like it says, you were created out of the earth. So someone said that thousands of years ago, and of course it's absolutely true. Where everything that's in our body is in the earth, the iron, the calcium, the magnesium, the copper, all of these things. And just like the seed clinging to the egg, it was said that you would cling to your wife and then have children, and when they leave you and your wife, or sorry, the husband and wife to put it more plainly, they will find a man or woman and cling to them as well. And the process starts all over again at the genetic level of the egg clinging to the egg, the seed clinging to the egg, and then the beginning of a new human starting. So there's a beginning and an end, and it happens in a thread. But there was a beginning. And from where you stand now, as a 50-50 roughly component, genetically speaking, of your parents, with your own unique soul and mind, that energy, just like the seed, will one day leave you. And I believe that energy will now have an imprint of its experience on Earth. Just like the energy that gets sent through the airwaves and transmuted back into zeros and ones to give you, well, what you're watching right now, your computer, your phone, all that stuff, right? So there's a law in place, and it's been multiplied itself as it starts from a thought to a physical being and a consciousness taking place together. And it goes through that first portal of life at the moment of conception, of the egg accepting the seed. And then it goes through another portal, which is the physical portal. So it goes through a spiritual and then a physical portal. So there's some duality. And it comes out into the world not knowing anything and has to learn everything, just like the beginning of the concept of creation at the beginning. So you get, in a physical experience, a God experience, something that God wants to share with you that he experienced so you can understand God. God wants to know you and be with you, and so he's built bunch of friends, which are all the humans in the world and the animals too, but especially the humans, because he can talk to them, right? The word is what put everything into creation, and that is another law that turns into, when I'm at a job site, the boss tells you what to do to get it done, and then I go and tell someone else what to do to get it done. And then even when I am doing the job, I am talking to myself as I get it done. And as I've said before, talking to yourself, there's a consciousness inside of you that talks back, and it has multiple answers, and then you got to decide which one it is on an interface. If your biological hard drive, your soft hard drive, as the military is now putting it, they're starting to experiment with making super soldiers, by the way. So they call your brain the soft hard drive that they clip the super soldier technology into, and then, you know, you'll shoot faster and maybe have some kind of heads up display in your cranium. Who knows? Crazy, but that's detracting a little bit from what I'm talking about. And then one day, after you have your experience, and this is how it goes, okay, this is my philosophy on it, that you are in the Garden of Eden as you come into the world. Now, granted, not everybody has the best experience in that regard, but you are in your place of childlike innocence where you are not held guilty for anything. You can't be, because you don't know anything yet. Your parents know that, and that's reasonable. You have to learn still. And they know that you have to learn, and that they know, and they also know that you're going to make mistakes just like they did, right? And then we're going to correct those mistakes, and that's sort of how we carry on. And to me, that's kind of the darkness and the light mixing and making amends, and then making the right math so that it balances out and you do the right thing eventually. That's what the pain's all about, is to make you do the right thing in life, hopefully. Sometimes that makes people angry, but it's probably part of the process too. It's all a process. But so at any rate, moment of puberty, you're cast out of the garden, and now you're going to start to get to know, truthfully, good and evil, and you'll have all the same experiences your parents did, and the things that you didn't understand that they did when you were a child, you will understand as you have children and go, oh my God, I get it now, what they were trying to tell me. And hopefully you have an epiphany about that. And then hopefully you contact your parents right away and tell them how much you love them, no matter how they've been to you throughout your life, whether they've been good or bad. They were in a spot too to be that way, but they're worthy of love and forgiveness. So are you, right? So that's kind of the end goal, is for everyone to realize that. Maybe that's what all the pressure is about, as I've said before, is to just pressure us into doing the right thing. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's the way I'm going to talk. I'm only going to talk about doing the right thing. Like I said, I'm going to start another channel. I'm going to have information on there that is like your genuine, you know, the things that I think that matter without getting crazy about it. Red pill type stuff for people who don't know what's going on in the world, that like might get them to help figure it out. I've seen a lot of people over the last 10 years, since all of this propaganda started on YouTube, that's slowly all been taken away as well, sort of wake people up and sometimes confuse them, and needs to keep moving forward, though, in a way that, you know, we have to take control of the situation. And sort of this is how to do it. And so I look at so many people that are angry and misled because of their emotions and everything right now, and it seems like an impossible task with this little channel to try to shed some light into the world with all of those people who are lost right now, following the ways of men, and get them to start following the true ways, the ways that are built-in, the built-in laws, so that we can come away from all of that harm that we're doing to each other. It needs to end, right? So anyway, as you progress through that, by the end of your energies experience, how do you want it looking? What's the code going to look like? What's the playback going to look like? You know, you can be a dirty bastard or whatever the whole time, right up until the very end, and then you suddenly do that like sacrificial moment in your life, like say Gran Torino at the end, when Eastwood's character goes and sacrifices himself for those, excuse me, for those people he once hated. And he's redeemed because of that, right? So it's a true repentance, and it's a true coming to the truth of everything. And it's expressed through the physical, and then he goes back through the portal with his energy, with knowledge in it. And then you get to go back to the creator, the grandparent of all grandparents, and you get to review all of that. That's what happens. That's what I think happens. There's a lot of people out there who will argue that I'm wrong, and they've all got their own theology, and that's fine. You go right ahead. I've got mine. You've got yours. I'm not going to fight with people about it anymore. I'm sick of that. That's what the Satan, the adversary, the accuser, the liar does to everyone. That's why you're split up into so many different groups, because it keeps you fighting each other. Your brothers and sisters, keeps you fighting them, killing them, raping them, stealing from them. But none of that is your divine nature. That's all your human bodily nature with the chemicals that you were given in your alchemy to make you have these experiences. And then when your energy leaves, it will remember it all, but it won't be a part of it anymore because it's no longer in that body to experience that stuff anymore. And Jesus actually says that quite clearly when he's asked about how many husbands or wives will you have depending on your divorces in heaven? How will that all work? And he says it won't matter because you won't have a body anymore, and so there won't be any marriage. You'll have a new body, a spiritual body, and there's no need for earthly marriage anymore. So that's some of the incredible spiritual things that are in the Bible that I think people skip by and pass by. So anyway, I felt inspired to talk about all that. Like I said, one day you're going to be leaving the portal, and you better think about that. I'm not trying to scare anybody into anything. I mean, the thing is, I don't have to. I mean, life, by the time you're at the end of it, for most people, usually has a terrifying moment and flavor to it. So even at the end, your body has another programming in its maturity as you started from a thought to a seed and an egg from those two thoughts, and you multiplied into a complete being able to do it all on your own, figure it all out on your own, do good and bad things throughout your own life. You'll be taught all of that, and then by the end, you'll even, as you fruition from being someone who can't make a child to someone who can, you end up going through other phases of your growth, like a plant that's slowly, becoming mature, dropping pollen, dropping seed. You do the same processes. And that fear inside of you will probably start bringing out the love in you. So that's I would say, the mystery of why would the fear of God be love of God? That doesn't make any sense, right? So, but it's the duality that's required for the complete understanding of both. And it's cruel and it's beautiful at the same time. So, I mean, whatever. See a lot of people getting angry lately these days. There was right 5 to 7 minutes outside of where I live in a small town that my dad lives in. There was a murder there this weekend. It just went by. A girl was, I don't know, killed by her boyfriend, and her twins were off visiting their biological father. And there'd already been abuse in the relationship, and now she's gone, and who knows what's happening with him. So, I mean, that's the kind of things that's going on in the world where stuff like that hadn't really happened too much in most of the decades in my life, and now there's strange deaths like that happening all the time around me. And it's kind of like that around the whole world in its own ways right now. So we're definitely coming to a head. Something is going to happen. There's going to have to be a shift, or we'll have to undergo a massive external and internal revolution to come back to, I guess, kind of like what our grandparents were like after the horrors of war that they had seen. Hopefully we don't have to go that way, but whatever, nonetheless. So anyhow, yeah, those are just some of my thoughts. I felt the need to put some of those thoughts out about what I think about creation and thought and consciousness and God and what happens after you die and what that energy is, and we can all see that. So that's kind of some of the basic proofs that you can sort of get. And to me, it's amazing that some of those things were written thousands of years ago, and we slowly can sort of see that there's truth to them. And so that becomes, if you're curious, an epic direction to go to try to figure things out. So that'll be some of the stuff more like what's going to be on the new channel. And like I said, I'll have that one with spoken word and this kind of stuff. Hopefully interviews still. I'd like to do that. That'd be fun still. And then I want to have another separate channel where I put all these videos that, you know, are like not mine up. Just stuff people want disseminated through the world. So that way, if that channel gets shut down, we can just start another one, and it doesn't have to affect my main channel where I'm not going to go down any roads of controversy. I mean, not too much controversy, but, you know, everyone has their own thoughts. So, of course, everything is always actually a little bit controversial, but that's okay. That's just the way we are. So, you know, once we all accept that, I think things can get smoother. So, anyhow, that's all for now. So I hope you like that. And I'm just going over my vids to see what the next one I should put up is. Anyhow, I know I keep talking about that like I'm leading people on. Maybe I am. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, thanks for sticking it out. Weekend's coming up. Have a good weekend, too. All right. Peace out. Peace out. Peace in. Peace.